T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we are back. NFL Week 1. So happy to be here. Coming at you here solo today. Brian's out doing adult, stuff, being a productive member of society, and I'm here in my basement. So, it's the podcaster fantasy football way. I'll be honest, kind of a downer to start off. You don't need to be a Jets fan, and you don't need to be a big Aaron Rodgers fan to not really love what we saw. Hopefully it's not an Achilles, but a lot of people seem to be predicting that, or you see kind of the calf pop there in the video. So, hopefully Aaron Rodgers is doing okay. I'll be really honest with you. I was expecting to start with another injury, but certainly one not as serious as that. But unfortunately, that is the NFL. That is Week 1, and that's just kind of how it goes. So if you're new to the show, every Monday night during the halftime, I jump on here, usually with Brian, who you'll see throughout the season. And we break down 5 to 8 players with some bonus guys in there. What do we saw? What have we seen maybe the last couple of weeks? What do we project forward? So on and so forth. So to be honest, we're going to start off with this guy. I already had him queued up to talk about, and then what's up, Dunk? And then we saw the Austin Eckler news talking about he's dealing with an ankle, unsure of his practice, outlook for this week. And that brings us to Joshua Kelley. And, a lot of people kind of had already noted it, but he played 31 snaps to Eckler's 41. He also ran 16 pass routes, which is pretty huge. That's obviously Eckler's bread and butter. So the fact that Kelley was even getting out there and running those routes is really impressive. Now, I think he was already going to be, or should have been, a pretty popular waiver addition this week. With the Eckler news, he probably, in my opinion, rockets up to number 1, where you're going to have to really blow some fab to go get him. And I think the key with that part is, I think as a whole, the fantasy community really dropped the ball on this backfield, right? With Kellen Moore coming in, we have seen the last couple of years, right, he's made Zeke and Pollard fantasy viable assets. And going into this year, it was just Eckler, which deservedly so. He's a stud. But I think we all kind of missed on like the RB2 role in this offense. Now, Kelley's, rostered on 11% of teams, I think, on the ESPN app. So he's pretty widely available in most of your leagues, and same with Yahoo Sleeper as well. I think you're going to have to spend a pretty penny to get him. I don't think this was just like, Eckler maybe got a little banged up, so they used him a little bit more. This is a type of role in that, that 2 running back system that Moore has that could be very viable for the entire season. Speaking of someone that also I don't think is a fluke, Zay Flowers. So he led the NFL in target share at 47.5%, which is kind of wild. So he had 10 targets. The next closest was 3 targets each for OBJ, Bateman, and Dobbins. He ran the second most routes on the team, 28 to OBJ's 30. So OBJ was out there a little bit more, but if you're running routes, you're just running routes, right? Flowers was getting the looks, and that's the key thing there. Bateman only ran 17. That is concerning. That is not ideal. So, at the moment, Week 1, Flowers looks legit. Now, OBJ may work himself back into just being that predominant type guy just because that's who he was earlier in his career, but I think injuries take a toll. I think he's fine, but I don't think he's the dude. I think it's going to be Zay Flowers. The concerning thing is with Mark Andrews back, what's going to happen to Bateman? If he doesn't take a next step up, he might be droppable. I mean, if you're that far behind OBJ and Flowers, and then once you add in Mark Andrews, he's not going to be someone that you can really rely on a week-to-week basis. So you're going to have to really keep an eye on that wide receiver group the next week or two, especially with Andrews back, to see what's going on there. But, if you have a Bateman, you might just have to cut loose. If OBJ also isn't producing and it's really just the Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews show, just cut bait and run. Two other wide receivers that is kind of interesting, and kind of the exact opposite of Zay Flowers being on like a good Baltimore offense, is Robert Woods and Nico Collins in the Texans offense. So Robert Woods sneaky led the Texans in routes run. He also had 10 targets that led to a 6 for 57 stat line. Now, Nico Collins got 11 targets and went 6 for 80. So you see those two guys could get peppered with targets, which kind of makes sense. Outside of, Schultz, someone's got to have the lion's share of the work there. The thing that really kind of stuck out to myself and then Brian in putting the show together is Nico Collins is 59% rostered on ESPN. Robert Woods is only 2.7% rostered. If Woods is already running more routes and he's getting the same type of production, that's a big imbalance where Robert Woods could be a really sneaky, if you're in a deeper league, if you have maybe a larger bench, getting Robert Woods on there, if he's going to be seeing 7 to 10 targets a game, that's hard to just find on the waivers. And I get it's week 1, they're chasing points. It could be a lot of different, confluent factors. Keep an eye out for this because that's something where, Nico is fine where he's at 60%. But if Robert Woods is getting that type of work at a 3% roster rate, you can jump on that cheap. Probably no one's going to look for him and get a really solid bench piece, especially if you have, again, that deeper league. The issue is with both of them, what is the touchdown potential? And unfortunately, with that Texans offense, probably not great. But again, if you're looking for someone that's going to get a lot of work, that might be just a bit undervalued because he's old and fantasy people are kind of have moved on from him. Not a bad little guy to go get and just stash on your bench for bye weeks, injuries, things like that. All right. We got to talk about it. Everyone's been talking about it. The Falcons pass catchers. Yikes. There's not a lot to say. Now, I guess if you want to try to spin this in a good way, Ritter only attempted 18 passes. So you can try to convince yourself that, like, well, you know what? It was bad. Mac Hollins had 4 targets, which was equal to Kyle Pitts and Drake London, 3 and 1 each. Well, maybe if he throws more, it'll be fine. You can certainly try to, protect yourself in that idea. The issue is this is kind of what it feels like Arthur Smith wants. He's made it abundantly clear he doesn't care about fantasy football, which he's an NFL coach. He doesn't need to, right? Who cares? But he's very clear that like stats don't at all matter to him. He wants to run the ball. He wants to play defense. Now, if you're going to do that, why draft Kyle Pitts where you did? I'm not the NFL GM there, but something doesn't make sense. The issue is, I don't think it's a smash the panic button. It's only 1 week. It's only 1 game. I don't think you're smashing the panic button. Though if you're sitting at a desk, I think you're taking it out of the drawer and just kind of getting it off to the side there because 1 week is 1 week, but boy, that was gross. This pass offense might just not be something that, we're going to want a part of. If this is type of team, if they keep a game close, which they want to do, they're just going to pound it with Bijan, who looked like a stud, and Tyler Algier, who also was very good. They're going to run it with these two guys. They're going to play defense. So, both London and Pitts still have absolute elite upside. They're tremendous talents. You always want to bet on talent. The issue is these guys, their floor is what we just saw. And, when you're drafting those elite players, usually their floors aren't zeros, barring injury. So it's one of those things that we're going to have to be really careful to look out for because this offense might be very concerning with Ritter, especially if they're only going to be throwing 20, maybe even 25 times a game. Very concerning. So don't panic yet, but be ready to panic in a week or two, and you're going to have to make a move for what you're going to have to make a move with. Someone that next that also put up a donut, but I'm not panicking at all, and I don't think you should either, is T. Higgins. Ran the same number of routes as Jamar Chase. He had 8 targets. If anyone is panicking, I would absolutely go get him. Right? I think a lot of people forgot last year that when Burrow didn't play all preseason, that the Bengals also started very, very slow. And that's what we saw yesterday, right? Bad weather, a good Browns team against the Bengals specifically. Those things just kind of happen. Now, 0 for 0 on 8 targets is not like a great thing that's going to happen, but it should not impact T. Higgins at all. Do not be concerned about T. Higgins. Again, if anyone is panicking your league and you can go get him even for 90 cents on the dollar, go get him, right? He's going to be fine. The Bengals are going to be fine. They're going to be studs. Don't panic. Now, this next guy, if you paid attention to Brian and I, Scott Fishbowl shows, we really hit on this guy at the very end of our shows of players that we really liked to look out for. And it's one of my guys, Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas led the team in targets. He went 4 for 43 on 8 targets. Third among tight ends in target share at 27%. And the best part is he's only 2% rostered on ESPN. He's a free square. No one has him. Everyone ignored him all preseason, all draft season because he's a little bit older. Yes, he's struggled with some injuries, but when he's healthy, he's produced. We saw a very high-end finish from him in fantasy. He's a good player when he's healthy. Obviously, health is something that you don't really want to chase, but at 2% roster, in the state of what the tight ends are, especially right with these injuries and everything we've seen, Logan Thomas should be an addition if you have the bench spot for him. He should be an addition, right? There's a lot of really good players on the Commanders team on the offense, which sounds wild to say, but there's a lot of guys, a lot of mouths to feed. But this week showed that he was a premier target for Sam Howell. Now, again, his fantasy upside really relies on Sam Howell progressing and getting better here and there. But the fact that he was already looking for him 8 times, right? What do we know about young quarterbacks? They go after their tight ends. And listen, Logan Thomas is not Travis Kelce. No one's saying that. But we have Eric Bieniemy. We know the type of offense. We know that Kelce was the guy there. Now, again, Kelce's a stud. You can't just recreate that. But Logan Thomas, young quarterback, good player, 2% rostered. Again, you can get him for free and either hold out if you're a Kelce person or Andrews person, or if you're a Pitts person and then you need a safety valve, maybe Logan Thomas still Pitts proves it. Again, these are guys that you maybe not are running out to your immediate starting roster, but if you have the bench spot, it's a very worthy addition. Now, the last guy is a Thursday night game. It's kind of the whole Kansas City, wide receivers as a whole, but Skyy Moore. And honestly, the biggest thing that you should have taken from that game, that Thursday night game, is Travis Kelce is the tight end one. I mean, look at the state of what happened that night. I mean, Kelce's going to get 15 targets a game. It's going to be crazy. Now, still, someone needs to step up. Tony was that guy, and now we have to wait to see, did he burn that bridge or not? The Chiefs would have won that game if Tony was hurt. If he got hurt play 1 and didn't play the rest of the game, they probably would have won, because the pick 6, everything that he did, that was terrible, right? So we have to see, did Tony burn that bridge with Mahomes, or are they going to give him another shot? Because apparently they seem to really like him leading up to that game, and then showed nothing all game and continue to go at him. So who knows? But someone has to do something. The potential positive for Skyy Moore is he was third on the team in routes run behind Noah Gray and MBS. Now, realistically, he was just out there doing wind sprints, working on his cardio. But you got to hope for the fact that usage means something. And that's really the idea behind you know, if you have him on a roster, if there's someone on waivers that you can really go get, like a Josh Kelley or something, yes, go do it. But if you don't really need to make a move and you already have Skyy Moore, it might not be a bad idea to hold on another week to see what week 2 looks like and see what progresses. Is he still getting that same level of usage within running those routes? And then now is he also getting targets? Or if he's not getting it, then yeah, cut bait and run. It's fine. But he wasn't just out there for 5 or 10 plays. He was out there a lot. So I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I'd give him another week to see what would happen. It's really hard to see what this offense really is without Kelley, because Kelley obviously stirs the drink. So with Kelley back, it might even be better for Skyy Moore. We don't really know, but for me, if he's on waivers in your league, let him stay there. If he's on your team, I would give it one more week to see what it really looks like. Now, on to our quick kind of even more rapid reactions, if you will. Michael Thomas. What a great little story. He's back. Now, he might be back for one more game, and that's it. But it's just nice to see Michael Thomas back on the field. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think this has kind of been mentioned a few times. Right, he definitely did not get the workload that we're all hoping for. But Campbell said they were just kind of testing him out, dipping his toes into the water before really unleashing him. Now, he was electric when he got the ball. So hopefully they start to unleash him and he becomes what we all want him to be. Next, Allen Robinson led the team with 8 targets. He went 5 for 64, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, some contributing factors to that, frankly, San Francisco, was really more focused on Pickens and Deontay than Deontay with the hammy, which we also have to look out for injury report wise. But, especially if Deontay is out for a week or two with his hammy, or they linger a little bit, Allen Robinson might not be dead in fantasy. So something to take note of. Their offense was horrific, but San Francisco is also amazing. So Allen Robinson's another name to keep an eye out for. Another name to put a little star next to, to watch. Jerome Ford had 15 carries. He also ran the same number of routes as Chubb, is 12. Most importantly, on third down, Chubb ran 1 route. Jerome Ford ran 6. Now, you could make the argument maybe it was just a game script thing, maybe it was just a weather thing, but I think that's worth really keeping an eye out for. Obviously, he's not taking Chubb's job. That's obviously not what is happening here. But if he's getting those 10 to 15 touches a game, those 15 plus opportunities a game, that's something you have to keep an eye out for. We all know the running back position. It's a war of attrition. If he's there getting that much potential usage, again, that's a really important name to keep an eye out for throughout this season. And sometimes it's better to get a guy a week early than a week late, when that means you don't get him. And with the fact that he's running that number of routes, if Cleveland gets into a negative game script, that could mean more Jerome Ford as well. 2 more things, and actually another Brown one. Elijah Moore, 7 targets, tied with Amari Cooper. He's the clear top 2 targets in that offense. He only went 3 for 43, so it's not like he lit the world on fire on those 7 targets. But the fact that he's getting that much usage already, really encouraging, really promising. So Elijah Moore, if you have him, I think you're happy so far. Even the numbers, the fantasy points may not show it out well, but the 7 targets and his usage, I think, is good. The Colts offense. So Brian is an FSU guy, so he's very much not an Anthony Richardson fan. I frankly haven't been a huge fan of his over the summer. I just, his passing, things like that. But I'm willing to correct here. Yesterday was a real eye to the potential offense for the Colts and what they can do with him. Downs got 7 targets. Kyle Granson got 6 targets, talking about another potential tight end there. Pittman got 11. Deion Jackson got 6. He spread the ball around, and I think he was like a 65% completion percentage. Now, it's not going to be that every week. There's going to be up and downs. He's a rookie quarterback that, frankly, is more of an athlete than an accurate passer at this point in his career. We also got the Anthony Richardson goal line vulture touchdown. He's going to be a guy that, might really be viable. And I think he was always going to be viable for fantasy himself. But we saw some glimpses yesterday of also not being a complete burden to the rest of his pass catchers as well, which is going to be would be a very big development, especially for some of the Michael Pittman people out there that got him at a nice little value, because a lot of people were concerned about Richardson's passing. And the last one, the Patriots offense. I didn't even write this on the show sheet. That was all Brian, hand to God. The Patriots offense, it's amazing what an actual offensive coordinator, the impact that has on a team. So Mac Jones looked pretty good. Obviously, the pick 6 was a bad pass, is what it is. But spread the ball around. They looked pretty good. They might be a frisky team that, again, no one really has the Patriots offense. So, again, in those deeper type leagues, might be some nice targets that you can go grab and just stash, and especially throughout the season, see what happens and see what unfolds. So with that said, we're down to our unfortunate Robbie Anderson of the Week award. That's a shout out all the way back to our first season here. The guys that get a lot of targets, do a lot of running, but don't have anything to show for it. So unfortunately, Week 1 of the 2023 NFL season, Robbie Anderson of the Week award goes to none other than T. Higgins. Sorry, T. I know you'll be okay the rest of the way. No one panic. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoy. See you next week. And for the sake of my gambling, go Bills -1.5. Peace.